Okay. Ukraine.
The tension seems to be rising again between Kiev and Moscow, and I'm wondering what, if anything, are you counseling both sides, and what, if anything, are you prepared to do to prevent this from exploding, essentially?
So thanks. We are extremely concerned about the increased tension near the administrative boundary between Crimea and Ukraine. Our position, as I said yesterday, is well known. Crimea is part of Ukraine and is recognized as such by the international community. In question on actions, we call for the avoidance of any actions that would escalate the situation there. We continue to remain in close touch with international partners on this, but we believe now is the time to reduce the tensions, reduce the rhetoric, and get back to talks.
So, is there anything particular in particular that you can point to, but by any of the sides involved, that has escalated tensions?
I believe, I would point back to, we believe that any actions, including rhetoric, including remarks, have the ability to escalate what is already a very tense situation and a very dangerous situation.
But can you talk specific? Can you name specifically if there has been, or what you see as an action or a use of rhetoric that has?
I think we've seen it actually coming out of Moscow. We've seen, a rhetoric where accusations have been lobbed. We've seen tensions spike on that administrative boundary. So it's time to take a step back. We call on all sides to reduce.
Okay, so all of the actions that you believe are escalating the tensions have come from the Russian side?
I wouldn't characterize it as that. We call on any actions, an avoidance of any actions.
Okay. Today, the Ukraine put its troops on alert in the Donbass. Is that something that escalates tensions, or is that, in your view, something that's a legitimate action?
We've seen those reports. I'm going to refer you to the Ukrainians to speak on that. We have seen a recent spike in violence in eastern Ukraine, and combined with the Russian-backed forces' systematic denial of unfettered OSCE access to the monitors, I would point out that this is, as I mentioned, this is a very tense time. We do understand that there is violence, and we do recognize Ukraine's right to defend itself and defend its own citizens. In terms of how they mobilize their forces, I'm going to refer you to the Ukrainians to speak to that, though.
Yeah, but so if I call the Ukrainians, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm just asking, if I wanted details of what they were actually doing on the ground, then I might do that. But I'm asking whether the United States, which you has accused the Russians of escalating the rhetoric, escalating the tensions, believes that this move by the Ukrainians is also escalating.
We actually are calling for a reduction in all actions.
So this would be included?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Could I recall the Russians' decision or their announcement that they are going to hold military exercises in the region as something that raises tensions?
Well, we've seen the Russian statements about military exercises in the Black Sea. Is that your question?
Yeah, the Black Sea exercises.
Yeah. We've received no information from the Russian Federation regarding the purpose of that activity other than what's appeared in the press and official Russian public statements. As we have in the past, we expect Russia to fulfill all relevant commitments to provide neighbors with appropriate assurance and transparency about the size and character of its activities. With all exercises, including these, any activity must be consistent with international law and with due regard for the rights of other nations. In terms of the scale, scope, size, we'll refer you to the Russians to speak to it.
But given the tensions with Ukraine, is this a good time for Russia to be doing military exercises, period, even in the Black Sea?
You know, as we've said, we've just actually received no information on the purpose of it. We've seen the same reports you have. Are we going to stay on Ukraine? Of course.
Is there any merit to Russia's accusation that the Ukrainians have been plotting terrorist activities in the Crimea? They have plotted to assassinate the president of Lugansk, you know, the popular Lugansk area, which is not recognized, Igor Plutinsky, and so on. Is there any merit in these accusations? That
You know,
Russians
I
are
haven't
making?
seen the details of that. I have no information on it. We'd reiterate again that Crimea is part of Ukraine.